Welcome to Lighten Up, the art of living clutter-free, the podcast where we tackle the literal and figurative clutter standing between you and your healthiest and happiest life. I'm Melanie, your host, coach, and guide on this journey to help you design a life that you love. Whether it's clearing out your kitchen cabinets, untangling your digital files, or letting go of the mental blocks that hold you back, we're here to make space for what truly matters. Let's lighten up together, starting now. Welcome back to Lighten Up, the art of living clutter-free. I'm your host, Melanie, and today we're diving into one of my absolutely favorite topics, spring cleaning. But not just the wipe down the counters, sweep under the couches kind. We're talking about true decluttering. We're going to talk about clearing out the mental and physical clutter and making space for what truly matters in your life. I know the idea of decluttering can feel incredibly overwhelming, but I promise you that it doesn't have to be. We're going to cover the basics. We're going to talk about how freeing letting go can actually be. We're going to go over different ways to sell, to donate, or responsibly discard items. And we're even going to tackle the guilt that sometimes comes along with getting rid of things. I'm also going to introduce my next 30-day decluttering challenge. If you know me, that's one of my favorite things to do. And I'm going to share some tips to make the process easier. So if that sounds good, let's get started. What is spring cleaning really about? Because I think that it's a lot more than just scrubbing the floors. I feel like it is about making the space or your space work for you. Our physical clutter contributes to mental clutter. Mental clutter makes it harder to manage physical clutter. And then that physical clutter creates more mental clutter. And then we get into this really uncomfortable cycle. So think about it. When your counters are cluttered in stuff, it's harder to cook, and it's most certainly harder to cook healthier. And when your closet is bursting at the seams, picking out an outfit can feel like a chore instead of a joy. I always tell my clients that letting go of stuff is not just about freeing up space. It's about freeing up you. I have yet to meet a single person who decluttered and regretted it. Okay, to be fair, there have been times where we've decluttered items that we have regretted, but not the entire process. So we'll talk about different kind of questions to ask yourself to make sure you are letting go of the right things at the right time. Because the more you release, the more clarity and peace you will gain, and you deserve that peace of mind. Decluttering isn't always easy. Many of us have very strong emotional attachments to our belongings. It was who they belonged to before, who purchased it for us, when we purchased it, how we paid for it. There were so many different things that created an emotional attachment, and that's okay. You need to give yourself grace as you go through this process. There are a lot of questions that you can ask yourself to help make letting go more meaningful and more efficient. When was the last time I used this? If you can't remember, if it's been over a year, maybe it's time to let it go. Ask yourself, does this item bring me joy or serve a true purpose in my life? Because if the answer is no, yeah, I don't need it. Is there something else I already owns that serves the same function as a helpful one? Because there are some items that are like a single-use item. It's only good for one thing. We may have other items in our home that are multi-purpose that cover that one thing plus so much more. Get rid of the single function item. If you have duplicates, consider keeping only the best one or the newest one. Ask yourself, are you keeping this out of guilt or obligation? Because gifts and inherited items can be tough to part with. But keeping something out of guilt is not a good reason to hold on to it. Ask yourself, if I got rid of this today, would I even notice a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, a decade from now? Because if the answer is no, or probably not, then it's not that important to hang on to. Ask yourself, am I holding on to this because of the money I spent on it? I get we don't want to waste money, but the money is already spent. The question is whether or not this item still adds value to your life. Asking yourself these questions can help shift your mindset and make decluttering a little bit easier. And remember, you're making room for what truly matters. So let's talk about where this stuff is going to go, because I know that's what you're thinking. Mel, what do I do with all this stuff I don't need anymore? So let's break it down. Selling. Okay. If you have high quality clothing, high quality furniture, or high quality gadgets that are in good condition, you might want to sell them. And you can try Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, eBay, your local consignment store. Sometimes a little extra cash can be a huge motivator. But not everything is worth selling. And you have to make this decision in a way that best suits you. Think about it. It's not, is it worth selling? How much money am I going to get? But what is my time worth? If I'm bringing to the consignment store, then I don't have to think a lot about it. I bring them the bag, they decide what they want, and then they can sell it or they can donate it or I can bring something back. Not a lot of time spent. But if I'm going to sell it myself on something like Poshmark or Facebook Marketplace or eBay, I have to think about the time, because I'm going to have to take a picture of the item. I'm going to have to upload a picture of the item. I am going to have to add a description of the item. Once it's posted, I potentially will have to answer questions about the item. And then when the item finally sells, I need to pack up the item and ship the item. It's a lot of time and energy. So you have to decide, what's the dollar amount that would make that worth my time and energy? And if it can actually sell for that amount, because if it can, do it. You need to do something that's a good fit for you. Now, not everything is worth selling, but that doesn't mean it should go to waste. You might want to consider donating to shelters, to schools, to buy nothing groups, charities like Goodwill or Salvation Army. Think about what is also local to you. Some of us really like to donate locally. There are so many options for doing that. So I want to talk about books briefly, because next week's episode is all about books. So if you want to know what's happened to books in our house, you need to check back in next week. I have a special guest talking about books with me. So think about instead of taking them to traditional libraries, and a lot of libraries are not taking book donations or only taking them a certain time of the year. So consider donating to a neighborhood free library. And if you haven't seen one of these before, they're small, community run, individual run book sharing boxes where people can take a book or leave a book. People have them on their front lawns, their front stoop. Some apartment buildings have them in the library. They're fantastic for keeping books circulating in a meaningful way. And if you don't have one nearby, consider starting your own. It is a great way to give back to the community and keeping books out of landfills. For broken or outdated items, look into textile recycling, electronic waste disposal, hazardous waste facilities. Many cities have programs set up to help with this. So check with your local chamber of commerce or your local city council person. Now we have to talk about throwing away without guilt, because this is a tough one. Sometimes stuff just has to go. I get it. We all feel guilty about throwing things in the landfill. I am with you. I love this beautiful planet that I was born to and live on. But the reality is, if I'm holding on to things just to avoid throwing them away, I'm just delaying the inevitable. Whether it goes now or it goes years from now, it's going to end up in the same place. And the goal here is to change our habits so that we're not bringing things into our homes that will just end up as waste later. And after decluttering, when we see what happens, it does change our habits. It makes us shop differently. So let's talk about the 30-day decluttering challenge, one of my favorite things, okay? If you are inspired to start decluttering, we can do a really great April challenge. We have 30 days. Here's how it works. Every day, you get rid of a set number of items. Day 1, 1 item. Day 2, 2 items. Day 3, 3 items. Day 9, 9 items. Each day you increase by 1, and by the end of the month, you will have let go of hundreds of items. In fact, if you do it every single day, you will get rid of over 450 items. But you don't have to do it every day if that feels overwhelming. We do it that way because when you start with one, we all have one thing to get rid of. We all have 2, 3, 4 items. If we started with the top number, that might feel too overwhelming and we may never start. Imagine if you did this just on weekdays. You would still get rid of a couple hundred items. If you only did it on the weekends, same thing, you're still going to get rid of over 100 items, and that's great. And for you, maybe the best plan is just 1 item per day. At the end of the month, reflect back on having gotten rid of 30 items. I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm just letting you know doing it can be great. And the trick to making it easier, don't overthink it. Keep a donation bin handy, set a timer, make it fun, play your favorite playlist, turn it into a friendly competition with family or friends. You'll be amazed at how much lighter you will actually feel, both physically and emotionally by the end of the month. So here's your challenge. Start small, pick one area, and just let go of a few items, maybe even today. Decluttering isn't about perfection, it is about progress. And trust me, once you start, you will feel so much better and quickly. If you're ready to commit to the 30-day decluttering challenge, got a free worksheet to help guide you through it. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you're feeling stuck or want a little more guidance, schedule a free strategy call with me. We'll talk about your specific clutter challenges and get you moving in the right direction. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little spring cleaning in their lives. That's it for today. Until next time, keep it light and let it go. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Lighten Up, the Art of Living Clutter-Free. I hope you found a spark of inspiration to help declutter not just your space, but your mind and life as well. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little lightness in their life. Remember, it's not about being perfect, it's about progress. Small steps lead to big changes, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. For more tips, resources, and ways to connect, check out my website, follow me on social media, and don't forget to check out the Design Your Healthy Life Strategy program to take your transformation even further. Until next time, keep letting go of what no longer serves you and making room for what truly lights you up.